My name's Wild John from down in Devon. I have a YouTube channel called Primitive Ways. Catch me on there doing lots of primitive stuff. If you wonder why they call me Wild John, it's because of my eating habits. I'm a firm believer in proper diet, eating food to be healthy and full of nutrition. And this is the kind of diet I like to eat. I like to eat raw meat, raw organs. So this is a elk heart, and yeah, it might look a bit weird, but actually it's absolutely beautiful. And it's full of bioavailable minerals, which your adrenal glands definitely need to produce their 51 hormones a day for you to feel happy, healthy and strong. So if you want to be healthy, get down to your local butchers, buy some raw organs and give it a good try. It's better than what you think. Something else I'm also extremely passionate about is leather. And this is my latest creation, leather tents. Because let's face it, in the UK where it rains all the time, canvas just rots, does my head in. So leather, windproof, fireproof, waterproof, lasts hundreds of years, looks beautiful, easy to fix. Why would you want anything else? This is my passion, love leather and love eating meat and love animals and love nature. Bon appetit! A lot of the food that we eat nowadays is so unbelievably hybridised. A lot of the fruits and the vegetables that we actually see in the shops now have actually been all hybridised from wild plants. So a lot of the fruits and vegetables that we're eating are either clones or they've been very bred. Like for instance, if you think about in the dog world, most of the dogs, where you got like wild dogs and wolves, is kind of like your original sort of genetic marker, and then we've kind of bred dogs and bred, and then you end up with something that looks like a chihuahua. So if you think of like a banana and a chihuahua, kind of a bit like in the same field, you know, bananas have been bred and clones, because an original banana is like a small, very seedy, not that edible kind of thing. We've bred them to what they are now. And if you look at a chihuahua and a wolf, it's a bit kind of like, yeah, you can see the difference. You can see how much we've bred and changed things, and this has happened with the food a lot. I mean, one of the major differences that we're seeing now, that's the difference in our diet now, is the amount of sugar and carbohydrate that we're eating compared to our ancestors it's just absolutely unbelievable, absolutely unbelievable. And I just want to start with one of the big lies that's actually existing in the sort of food chain today. Is that we're told, like, okay, our ancestors ate a lot of meat, they ate a lot of animal protein, and they ate a lot of saturated fat, and that's the reason why they didn't live very long. But yeah, actually, if you do the proper research and research the Inuit and Maasai warriors, and they live off meat, but they are genetically suited to it. You know, they've eaten that way for so long, their bodies are adapted to it and they're genetically adapted to it. Like for instance, people in Japan, they don't have dairy in cows. A lot of them are lactose intolerant, they can't digest the dairy, and they're not so used to the red meat. You know, there is blood types and genetics do really matter. But we are told all over the place, and it's been promoted for years and years and years, that saturated fat is what gives you heart disease, and it's bad for you and it makes you fat and it's going to kill you. And actually this is a complete lie, because you have saturated fat, monounsaturated fat and polyunsaturated fat. So saturated fat, the reason it's called saturated fat is because all the particles in the hydrogen chain are all packed together, which means there's no oxygens can be added into the hydrogen chain for it to become oxidized, which basically means you can cook with animal fat at high temperature for as long as you want, and it's very difficult to oxidize it. There's where polyunsaturated fat, which is more of the plant fats, grapeseed, almond oil, canola, flaxseed, hemp, sunflower, corn, all those oils, they're a liquidy, runny oil, so they're not solid, they're runny, and if you look at them on a structural metabolic level, there's lots of spaces in the hydrogen chain where oxygens can be added to them, meaning it can oxidize, and when something's become oxidized, it's become damaged. So what is the effect on our bodies when you're consuming damaged animal fat, I mean, no, damaged fat. And obviously I'm not just talking about cooking the fat either. I mean, if you get raw organic sunflower oil and you don't have to cook it, but you consume it, it's still oxidized. It oxidizes as soon as it's created, it's oxidized as soon as it hits any light, but as soon as you put it into your body, because it's going through metabolism, if any of it sits in your adipose tissue, a lot of the heart, fat around the top of your heart is made of more polyunsaturated linoleic acid, and so is your brain. Your brain has massive amounts of cholesterol, bit of linoleic acid and lecithin. But when you consume too much polyunsaturated fat, so now it's sat in your adipose tissue, and it also makes up your cell membranes. And you have thousands of cell membranes, and your cell membranes is a part of your mitochondria. Your mitochondria is how you generate energy to actually be able to do things, be able to move. It's called ATP, adenosine triphosphate. So the outside of the cell membrane is made from fatty acids. So if you're consuming large amounts of polyunsaturated fat and not saturated fat, your cell membranes are now made out of a more oxidized and damaged fatty acid. So if your mitochondria cannot work as well, then you won't be able to burn fat for fuel. The cells eventually get toxic and they die in a toxic way. It's called necrosis. It's where cells have a healthy way of dying, which is called apoptosis. It's like a tree gets to a certain age and then it dies naturally. As where if a tree gets sick, it'll die before its time. And cells are the same. There's a natural cell death and a toxic cell death. And from consuming too many of these polyunsaturated fats, your cells get very, very sick and they can die, or they can have DNA mutations, not burn fat for fuel, so you now become glycolysis dependent, or you're burning carbohydrate. So this can be why you might gain weight. Metabolic deposits and DNA mutations cause cancer, Alzheimer's, macular degeneration. In 1851, a gentleman called Hermann von Helmholtz, he was the gentleman that invented the ophthalmoscope, which is the little light that ophthalmologists use to look into the back of the retina. So for 30, 40 years after this ophthalmoscope was invented, they started creating detailed atlases of the eye, mapping the eye and doing these incredible study on the eye. And there wasn't one mention of macular degeneration for 30 years in these books, maybe a tiny little bit, but it just wasn't prevalent. And we're told macular degeneration is an age-related or genetic disease. So we used to say the Japanese are protected, they're genetically protected, they don't get AMD, they don't get it. But that's not true. It's now, I think it's 34% of them are now getting macular degeneration because they're importing a lot of food, westernizing their diets, and of course, it's all got this polyunsaturated fat in it. Because it's in everything. It's in biscuits, it's in bread, it's in, like, obviously anything that you cook with. You cook with rapeseed, grapeseed, canola oil, almond oil, flaxseed, hemp, corn oil. All of these oils are polyunsaturated fats called linoleic acid. And unfortunately, it's actually very toxic. And if you do heat it, from heating these oils, they produce toxic aldehydes, carboxyethylpyrrole, malondialdehyde, 4-hydroxynonenal, oxidized linoleic metabolites like 9 and 13-hode, and acrolein, which funny enough is in cigarettes. There's more acrolein in one portion of McDonald's chips than there is in a pack of 20 cigarettes, because it's cooked in these horrible oils. And a lot of these oils, when they're made, they actually have to bleach it, alkalinize it, heat treat it, bleach it again. You know, the process that these oils go through, they end up being so toxic. And it's funny they call them vegetable oil, but they're not. They're actually seed and bean oils. And a long time ago, we used seed and bean oils to lubricate machinery. Human beings have actually been consuming animal fat for a very long time. It was only after about the American Civil War that they actually started introducing these kind of plant oil fats into the food chain. It was Crisco was some of the first people to start putting cottonseed oil in, and then they started hydrogenating it to try and make it solid, because it's actually a really runny oil, trying to make it look like butter or look like lard so they can market it and sell you this new product. But unfortunately, these have been in the food chain quite a long time now, and personally myself, I actually think that these are actually the most toxic things you'll find in our food chain. Like, yes, sugar's not good, carbohydrates are not that great, you know, you can burn these things off, but these horrible rancid polyunsaturated fat oils, when they get into your body, they don't just go in and pass through and you poo them out. They make up parts of your brain, parts of your bone marrow, parts of your heart, parts of your cell membrane, your adipose tissue, and it can take anywhere between 300 and 600 days to get this stuff out of your body. It's incredibly toxic. So if you're somebody that cares about your health like I do, because I've had some unfortunate accidents in my life. I was shot in the tummy when I was 22 years old in a complete accident with a 2.2 Live, and that is actually what's kind of, I've learned a lot about health and nutrition because of that, because of some unfortunate accidents.
The better fats, coconut oil?
Coconut oil is a completely saturated fat. It's an amazing fat, it's brilliant, use it. The only thing that where coconut oil isn't quite as good as some of the animal fats is it doesn't have A, D or K2, the fat soluble vitamins in it, which are essential for you being healthy. So I'm not against coconut oil at all. It's an amazing, incredible fat. Use it, it's brilliant.
So butter over margarine?
Yeah, margarine is poison. It is pure poison. Please don't eat it.
Refined or non-refined coconut oil?
Yeah, all coconut oil is fine.
When they do the process of taking out the coconut taste,
it's not damaging at all. Coconut's fine. Like I say, it just doesn't have the fat soluble vitamins in it, which are really good for health. So I use coconut oil and animal fats.
Add them together.
Yeah,
so the coconut oil, when you burn it to the temperature, is okay too. That's
it just won't oxidise.
Go back to the ADK2. That was, you said that
yeah, coconut oil doesn't have those fat soluble vitamins in it. It's still a really great fat, but it just doesn't have the essential fatty, vitamins in it that you do need.
Add that.
Well, just animal products is a really good way, or you can supplement it if you don't want to eat animal products, definitely. But ADK2 is essential. Like K2 for your eyes is really important. So if anybody is eating margarine, please just go back to butter and just don't believe the hype, because it's nonsense. It's the same with cholesterol. The stuff about cholesterol, it's nonsense. It's your triglyceride levels. Like, your body makes 3,000 milligrams of cholesterol a day. You need it. You need it to make hormones. Your adrenal glands sit on top of your kidneys. They produce 51 hormones a day. They're very important. Like your thyroid produces one hormone a day called thyroxine. Don't get me wrong, really important. You've got to have it. But if your adrenals are down, your thyroid's definitely going to be shot to bits. So to have a healthy adrenals functioning, you need minerals. They say ashes to ashes, dust to dust. What's the dust? We are minerals. We're made out of so much minerals. Like our adrenals burn massive amounts of magnesium. Magnesium is the mineral that you use the most of. And they say stress is a killer.
Yeah.
It's a killer because when you get stressed, the stress actually causes the magnesium to leave the cell in your adrenals. And that's why you start getting fatigued and tired. It's just something that happens. It's one of the things living out in nature, that you have to learn to manage your stress levels, because as soon as you start getting stressed, your magnesium, your pH is going up, and now you can't think straight and everything's getting worse, and then everything just goes downhill from there. That's why trying to manage your stress in a survival situation is so important, because you're dealing with not only mental challenges, but you actually are dealing with pure physiological challenges that happen inside your body.
What about olive oil?
Olive oil is a monounsaturated fat, and you shouldn't cook it for a long time at hot temperatures, but it's still awesome. But olive oil raw for your vascular system is actually incredible. While we're talking about the vascular system, so I woke up one morning and my wife looked at me and she was like, my arm's gone blue. Her arm had literally gone blue from there to there. She literally looked like somebody had screwed on a Smurf arm. And it was like, oh, that's not good, right, call the ambulance, that's just not good. So she rushed off in the ambulance, and she came back and I was like, yeah, so, what's going on? And she had two 12-centimetre blood clots in her main vein in the shoulder. Don't know what caused it, could have been sleeping in a hammock. She was pregnant at the time, I know your blood thickens up for that. She was sleeping not very far away from a Wi-Fi router, which at the time I wasn't really that sort of knowledgeable about, as we're now definitely not getting near one of them. But yeah, so she had this blue arm and she managed to make it, but she had to have fragment injections 3 times a day in her bum. They want to put on warfarin, but you can't put somebody on warfarin when you're pregnant. So she's having these jabs in her bum every day, and it's not good because she's pushing the pushchair up the hill and her arm's going blue as she's exercising because the oxygen's not getting round. and it's just like, oh, what's going on? But at this time, where we were living, I got really into the Wim Hof method. If anyone doesn't know who Wim Hof is, he's a gentleman who does cold water submersion and breathing techniques. So I was really, really into that. So I had a wheelie bin out the front of our house full of water, and it was the winter time, so I had to break off the ice and get in there. And I had to tuck the wheelie bin around the back of the bush because our neighbours over there thought we were a bit weird anyway. But I knew that when they were seeing me, like, in the wheelie bin when they were driving away, they'd be like, you know those two weirdos next door? I saw him early in the wheelie bin, so like, I had to hide it around the back of the bush. So I was getting in there and I was feeling like amazing. And my wife, I don't know, she must have just thought, I think that would be a good idea for me. So she got in the cold water the first day. She stayed in there for about, I don't know, 25, 30 seconds. It's pretty damn cold. But she got out of the water, and then that afternoon she came back from her walk pushing the pushchair, and she said, I was pushing the pushchair today and my arm wasn't going so blue. And she's like, I'm sure it's got something to do with going in the water. So she went in there the next day, and the next day, and the next day, and literally within 3 days, yeah, her arm's not going blue anymore.
Which makes complete
2 weeks
sense.
later, gone and had the scan back at the doctor's, blood clots gone. They couldn't believe it, 'cause they were big ones. They were like, whatever you're doing, keep doing it, because it really works. So I did some study into it, and they did a study in Russia, blood clots, cold water. So to conserve heat, the blood moves all internally into the larger vascular system, which of course, to expand and contract, expand and contract. This is obviously what cleared the blood clots. So cold water is awesome. Our ancestors would have been exposed to the cold on a daily basis. So the cold's really good for your immune system, cardiovascular system, your muscular system. Like, you have no idea how much. Going in the cold water is going to make you literally like 2 times as strong. If you want a good testimonial on how good the Wim Hof method is, if you go on YouTube and put in Wim Hof testimonials, there's an old chap on there who his wife had cancer. He was very stressed because his wife was ill. The stress gave him an autoimmune disease called Guillain-Barré's. The doctors have like, man, you're not looking good. You basically said, they said to him, you've probably got 4 or 5 months left. So he's distraught, not good, and his grandkids who obviously felt terrible, and they managed to obviously find this guy Wim Hof on the internet. So they come and said to him, we found this guy, he's like swimming in glacier water, says he never gets ill, does all this crazy stuff, he's done Mount Everest in a pair of shorts, like, he broke 26 world records, this guy. And he's like, right, okay, well I'll try his 10-week program. And from being given 4 months to live, done the 10-week Wim Hof program, the guy's a power lifter now, and he's in his 60s, he wasn't a young chap, he's an old boy. And you can check out this testimonial on YouTube. It's amazing. The cold water is so good. I've seen it with my own eyes. Like, I get in the cold water every single day. It's really, really good. But if you are interested in that, just work up to it slowly. Like, I'm not going to lie, I'm fairly skinny. I really feel the cold. The first time I got in the cold, I was like, I don't like that. I ain't into that. So like, if you are going to do it, just do it slowly.
Do you like doing it now?
Love it. Love it. Yeah, love it. Love it. Absolutely love it. And I won't lie to you, even if you've been doing it a long time, it doesn't get to a point where you go, I don't feel the cold anymore. No, you do, but you're just stronger than it. You actually love it because you realise that it's almost that pressure, that force, that power of the cold. That's what's giving you this feeling of amazing, giving you loads of energy, sleeping really well, no depression. You know, you're feeling stronger. It's just everything's firing on all cylinders. It's so good. But if you are interested in it, just do it slowly. You don't have to just go, wait until the winter, right, the pond's freezing, I'll just jump straight in. Just do it slowly. Like I started off by just going in up to my waist and just getting your body used to it. Because once you're in the cold for a while, it doesn't actually matter and it doesn't feel really that big a deal. But it's the getting in and that first 3 minutes. It's the first 3 minutes which sucks.
Can I ask one how cold does the water have to be?
Well, I mean, if you're starting out, you know, work up to it. But I personally myself try and find the coldest water I can possibly get. Like if it's in winter time, I will get a smaller bin of water that I possibly can so I can get the thickest amount of ice on the top and then break it with a hammer and then get in there because it just feels amazing.
Well, that makes complete sense because that would push the blood flow and circulatory system around the body.
Oh, it's
at
really
high
good.
rate.
Yeah, it's really
Not
good.
good if you've got blood clots, obviously.
But it's good
But
for
it
them.
did restrict to allow the rest to.
Yeah.
for how she was finding that reduced.
Yeah. And so what this guy does, this Wim Hof guy, he does breathing and the cold water submersion. So by doing all the breathing techniques, you're getting loads of oxygen into your body. And then you get exposed to the cold, so then your vascular system's going, oh my God. So now you're forcing oxygen into really, really deep parts of your body that didn't really get oxygenated before. Like for instance, Wim Hof, he did Mount Everest in a pair of shorts. He got frostbite in his toes. And the doctor said, well, we will have to amputate your toes. And he's like, no you won't, I'll sort them out. And he just kept doing his breathing, and he's somehow able to force the oxygen into the parts where it wouldn't normally get to, and he healed his frostbite from breathing techniques. Just from, it's like a free diver. If you want to stand under the water for ages, you got to sit there going, you know, just packing it in, and that's what he does. He packs the oxygen in. But one of the good things to do is to breathe through your nose. When you breathe through your nose, you release nitric oxide. And what nitric oxide does is it allows you to absorb more oxygen. It also pressurizes the air and like humidifies it and just makes it all way better.
It's supposed to be really bad to be breathing through your mouth. A lot of people
It
do
is actually. It's actually changing our windpipes, changing our jaw structure, which actually is reshaping our bone structure. You have a child, their bone structures change, they carry it on, they have a child. You know, it's almost like we're domesticating and homogenising ourselves just through breathing.
Well, the breathing through the nose has filters and all sorts of things.
It's really good,
encouraged
yeah.
To do it. I've only realised it myself recently, so I've
Yeah.
tried to do it now.
I've found that people on the internet are literally putting duct tape over their mouths before they go to bed,
I
so
do
they
that.
just don't, yeah.
And I put little things up my nose so I can actually breathe because I've got, I think, quite congested nose, and it's really
Yeah, it's really good.
Taking a bed trip.
Yeah, nitric oxide's really good one. It's actually really good for keeping sort of viruses, moulds, bacteria and stuff at bay. Like for instance, Lyme's disease is a horrible bacteria, and it's so clever, it knows when you're starting to take your antibiotics, and when you start taking them, it tries to release these horrible toxic side effects to stop you from taking them. That man over there knows.
Hi.
Alright. But yeah, these bacteria are blooming clever, they really are. And like, it's another thing that the Wim Hof method has been proven to really help against. It's been proven to really help against Lyme disease, because if you can keep your immune system tip top, these things will stay dormant. Because like viruses and bacteria and herpes and all these things, ringworm, all this stuff, it's in your body all the time. It's always there. It's just sat there and waiting, and it's waiting. And then of course it knows, oh, he's stressed, he's tired, oh, he knows he's had a few McDonald's, right, that's it, I'm on him. They just know, oh, so cheeky. But like by doing the cold, your immune system's now kept so strong that you can actually keep a lot of these things at bay. I contracted, I don't really know where I got it from, to be honest. Could have been, oh, it could have been lots of crazy things. But I had a horrible staph infection. Not like a normal MRSA, like a boil, but a proper flesh-eating horrific bacteria which was spreading really quickly. And I used Manuka honey to heal the outside, which worked amazing. Like, I'm not joking, if you've got anything on your skin or cut, burn, scar tissue, anything, Manuka honey is amazing.
Did you eat it?
Absolutely, yeah, I've consumed it and put it on. But yeah, Manuka honey and a garlic supplement called Allicin Max, which is absolutely amazing. So for staph infections and Lyme's disease, Allicin Max is absolutely awesome. There's a little bit different like funguses and stuff like that, like chaga and reishi mushrooms. Our ancestors would have been consuming tons of myceliums, and they're really good for keeping the moulds and the funguses in check. So unfortunately we're all living in houses now and breathing in carpet dust and paint chip dust and plasterboard and all sorts of horrible, but the worst thing in the house is black mould. Go on the internet whenever you get home next week and watch a documentary called Mould. It's on YouTube. It will scare the hell out of you. So I lived in a house once which was sort of half underground at the back. It was glass here and all glass and not many of the windows open, and then downstairs it had a shower and bathroom right in the middle of the room with no windows and nowhere for the moisture to go. And there was just black mould all over there that had been painted over, and we didn't know at the time, and black mould here, just black mould everywhere. And I had no idea about how bad it was at the time, and I got really ill from it. You know, I only lived in a house for So I haven't lived in a house over the last 22 years. I've only lived in a house for 3 years. And those 3 years, funny enough, was the 3 years where I was sick as a dog. And since I've moved out of the house, I'm not ill anymore. But black mould, if you've got black mould in your house, you just try and get rid of it. It's so much worse than what people making out. It's bad, and it's obviously we do live in a really damp environment, so it's pretty prevalent in the UK. So that's something to watch out for. But yeah, so going back to what our ancestors would have eaten. See, I look at how well life is almost designed. So if you're in a really, really hot climate, from what I've seen, is the stuff that's in that environment naturally growing is actually the stuff that you generally need to survive in that environment. And like, for instance, what the Inuit are eating and consuming is actually exactly what they need to survive in that environment. It's freezing cold. Plants don't grow. You know, the diet that they have is perfectly designed for that environment. So if you actually look at it, it's quite amazing how well it's designed. You know, I'm not a religious man, but I just don't see how life can be an accident. We breathe out something that feeds fire. You know, we wee nitrogen, poo phosphorus, and potassium is left behind from the fires that we have. The fact that animal skin comes off, the fact that wood actually burns, like, there's just too many coincidences. You know, this is how I've come to a more, I don't know, you would call it creation, whatever, but you know, when I got into primitive skills, that's what started making me be like, oh, that's a bit, you know, that's a wicked coincidence that you can take the bark off that tree, mix it with this animal skin, and it actually makes incredible leather. Like, what are the chances of that happening, along with that chance, and that chance, and that chance, and that chance? You know, I'm seeing some kind of design here, and that's what I sort of see with the food, is whatever environment you're in, whatever's there is exactly what you need to survive in that environment. So if our ancestors have stayed in a certain environment for a long time, obviously their bodies are genetically getting used to it. As we were saying about genetics and blood type do matter. So if finding out your blood type is really important to knowing what diet does suit you. But yeah.
You know the guy about the Gaia hypothesis, you know, the Earth is a living organism. And
yeah, I mean, I've heard, I don't know a lot about it.
The terms of what you're talking about, seeing it in those terms, that things are very in sync with each other.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, this is the reason we're doing so much damage now, isn't it?
Yeah, we're slightly out of sync.
So out of sync. And steel as well. Like, if we had never invented steel, then there'd be no machines, no computers, no cities, no money, no weapons, no bombs, no bows and arrows, swords, arrowheads. No king would have been like, I've got an army now, I'm going to have power over you. Pretty much steel that's the result of that. But yeah, so I do see it as that wherever you go, everything that you need will be provided for you in that landscape, except for what's in our diet today is just pure poison. It really is. Yeah.
So where does that bring us now that we're all mixed up genetically?
Yeah.
There's been so much travel around the world. We've got
but it hasn't been long. You know, we've spent a very long time living a certain way, and it's only been a few hundred years that everything's all gone. And I'm pretty sure, you know, your genetics haven't really changed that much yet. It wouldn't, you know, your blood type and your genetics wouldn't have changed massively. So if you can find out your blood type and do a little bit of looking into your family history, you'll be able to quickly work out which diet is more suited to you. But whichever diet is more suited to you doesn't mean it's all right to eat Snickers and Mars bars and crisps and McDonald's and all that stuff. You know, this is what's making everyone sick. It's such a shame that people really don't think that diet makes that much difference. They almost look at the body like an engine block. The engine block's not going to change, and I'm going to put the engine, you know, I'm going to put the food in, and that's what creates the energy, and that's what comes out. And the only reason I'm getting sick is because I'm old. And yeah, I don't get me wrong, some people just do, unfortunately, are born with health issues, and yeah, you do get stuff even if you look after yourself. It does happen, but diet really does make a difference. And I know this because I got shot in the tummy when I was 22, and a bullet went through my tummy, hit my spine, and went down into my bowel. And I had to have a colostomy bag for a while, and all sorts of issues. And of course, when you've got a bag here and you can actually see what digests and what doesn't, it's a bit like, oh, okay, oats ain't looking like they're digesting very well, but that mincemeat, yeah, can't really seem to see that. So like that's, you know, that's kind of like, that's one of the things that I've got into it. Fermented foods, like oats, for instance. I'm not a massive fan of oats, but if you're going to eat oats, soak them for a day and a half. They're way, you know, or a little bit of lemon juice in there, a little bit of salt. just to ferment the oats a bit more, and then you're pre-digesting it. This is what our ancestors did a lot of. They pre-digested food first, so that when it goes into you, it's easier to digest and it's easier for your body to get the goodness out of it. And obviously they fermented a lot of stuff as well to preserve it. And another thing they didn't do is they didn't pasteurize any of their stuff. Like why we're doing pasteurization now and milk, it's just unbelievable. Like raw milk is so much better for you. Obviously if you're lactose intolerant, then you're lactose intolerant. But if you are me and you can consume milk, raw milk is way better for you. Way better. It's just, you know, like for instance, if you spill pasteurized milk, it stinks. Like raw milk, it just slowly goes sour and then just slowly ferments and it's all good.
Is that really, it doesn't smell like good?
No, it
That's
doesn't smell like the
clean,
pasteurised stuff.
Very
It's
clean.
absolutely reeking. I've got something I'll show you later. I want to prove a point about raw food, but if you've got a weak stomach, or you're a vegan, or you don't like blood, I do suggest you move along. Because I have a little bit of a point to make. Because I've been eating a certain diet now for about 7 years, and I've never been ill, I've never felt better, and I certainly ain't changing what I'm doing. I feel great. So I consume raw meat, raw animal organs, wild food, raw eggs, raw butter, raw milk, raw fish, and that's about it really. I don't really eat hardly any vegetables, even though I work in the best organic fruit and veg shop in Totnes. I got fruit and veg coming out of my ears. I used to feed my pig on like 200 kilos of organic fruit and veg a day.
You don't eat it.
But I don't eat it now. I mean anything in nightshade family, so like potatoes, tomatoes, legumes, aubergines, anything like that, they're in the nightshade family. And they're packed with something called lectins, plant defense mechanisms. Plants can't run away, plants haven't got claws. They don't really want to be eaten, so what do? They've got a load of awesome defense mechanisms. Lectins, oxalates, phytochemicals, goitrogens. There is literally a list of about 60 or 70 plant defense mechanisms. Like they say, don't eat too much wood sorrel. The reason why, it's got oxalic acid crystals in it, oxalates, and what they do, they give you kidney stones. I didn't know this many years ago, and I was a bit addicted to something called halva, which is honey and sesame seeds. And I used to buy the big fat blocks of it, not like a little one in the shop. I used to be like, yeah. I used to eat loads of it. And then about, I don't know, it was a couple of months after I sort of found out about oxalates, and then I was like, oh no, I've eaten tons of halva. I used to eat 1 kilo of cashew butter a week. And like the next week I'd eat like 2 kilos of almond. Then I eat peanuts and chia seeds, poppy seeds. And all of these things are packed full of oxalates. So I woke up one morning, couldn't go to the toilet, and I thought, oh, all right, I'll try and go back to sleep and hopefully it will go away. I lied back down and it felt like somebody was hiding underneath me, heated up a little red blade and gone like that, right there. And oh my God, I just knew straight away, this is not good. This does not feel good. So it turns out, kidney stones, very painful. And I had a big fat one, and unfortunately, by the time I got to the hospital, it wasn't in my kidneys anymore. It was in there. I had to pass it, and not nice, not nice.
So excessively, like with the nut butters and things, are they okay in small amounts?
Small amount, yeah, small amount is okay, because if you think about it in nature, there's only once a year you can get it, and you're not going to get tons and tons and tons of it, and you're also not going to consume it all in one go. You know, you're going to store it, and I mean, like a way to minimise the oxalates is to try and cook it. But so in the seed and bean category, the highest oxalate food in the seed and beans and nuts. So almonds, number 1, really high in oxalates. So if you're oxalate sensitive, cut them out, because they'll cause eye problems, joint problems, and kidney stones, and even like leaky gut. So it's almonds, cashews, peanuts, sesame seeds, poppy seeds, and chia seeds. That's the list of high oxalate food. Some people are not so oxalate sensitive. And talking about the potatoes and the tomatoes and the aubergines and legumes again, they've got something called lectins. If you look at lectins under a microscope, they're like a tiny little super duper sharp little shard. Like oxalates under a microscope just literally look like balls of sharp needles. You look at them and you're like, they don't look good. And it's the same with lectins. What they do is they stick to your gut lining. Your gut lining is only 1 micron thick. They stick to that and they start to prise it open, and they cause something called leaky gut. So you're trying to digest food and it's inhibiting your ability to do that, but then you're also leaching toxins from your food past your stomach
that's
barrier.
in the potatoes. I knew it was in the tomatoes.
Really
It's
high in
the
potatoes, yeah.
as well.
It's in the skins.
In the skin.
In the skins. A lot of it's always in the skins. So if you are a potato monster and you're not going to stop them, make sure you're not eating the skins.
Does that count for tomatoes and aubergines as well? Take the skin
Take the
off,
skins off,
and
yeah.
that's it, it's okay,
But isn't
yeah.
All
that
the
in the
Italians,
seed
if
as
you look
well?
at the
Right,
Italians,
they take the
they
skin.
always take the skin, they
Yes.
always take out the seeds,
The
always.
Italian, it's in the seeds as well. They've got that machine and it actually
Dehusk them or something.
takes
Yeah.
the skin
Yeah.
and the seeds out.
Right, right.
Yeah, so they've been peeling their peppers, de-seeding them, tomatoes, aubergines, potatoes. Sweet potatoes are way better. And also sweet potatoes have got loads of prebiotic fibre in them, not probiotic, prebiotic, because bacteria. So this is what our ancestors had. There's a guy, I think it's the Maasai, he's gone over there and studied their gut flora, and they've got like the most unbelievably diverse bacteria in their gut. And this is the one thing that is really lacking in our diets and in our environment now is the diversity of our gut flora. And you're made of bacteria. You're mostly bacteria and water, and the bacteria control everything, and they even control your brain. Like parasites, for instance, will get inside your body, and they can even control you and send out false signals and get you to crave certain foods. It's,
Yeah, it's like cats apparently as well.
yeah,
It's a
yeah.
virus that apparently gets you to really love cats and be really affectionate with them, which
Yeah.
transmits the virus.
Toxoplasmosis.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's mad. It's absolutely
Oh, there's some mad stuff out there, isn't there? That's what I mean. Although I'm kind of believing in some kind of creation thing, I'm also thinking to myself, must be some crazy creator up there. Like what are you doing creating Lyme's disease, man? And like some of this other stuff you've done. Like, what do you create that little fish for that swims up your willy and lets out spines and like, you know what I mean? Like that's probably why I'm not religious, because I'm like, yeah, okay, loving God, yeah, I really hope so. But like, some mad stuff out there. But yeah, so lectins. I don't consume any of the in the nightshade family for that reason, because I've had gut issues, and as soon as for instance, I've got my eldest daughter is 7 years old, and if you give her one tomato, instantly her lips go red and start burning. She can't breathe, her tummy's killing, like anything like that. She can't eat bread, can't eat tomatoes, doesn't do well with nuts, just really sensitive to lots of food. But you can give her any animal products, eggs, fish, anything like that, no problem. I don't know if anybody's heard of a guy on YouTube. His name's Jordan Peterson. He's kind of a famous clinical psychologist now, and his daughter, by the age of 13, she had such bad autoimmune disease and arthritis, she had to have hip replacement, knee replacement, ankle replacement by the age of 13, and she could not eat anything but meat. It was the only thing that didn't set off her autoimmune disease. It's just crazy, but it just shows how there's so many foods in our food chain now. There's so many children now getting these allergies, and I know a lot of people say things like, oh well, they shouldn't be like that, or blah blah, and it's like, no, it's because a lot of the foods that we're actually eating, they are really reactive foods, and we didn't eat anything like that. If you think about what environment our ancestors actually really lived in, there's no modern farming, there's no carbohydrate, you know what I mean? They weren't growing wheat, and the wheat now has obviously been changed so much, really hybridized, loads more glutinous. Like the wheat, the gluten in it now it's crazy. Gluten used to be used as wallpaper paste in like 1930s and 40s and 50s, because it's glue. It will stick up, clog up your arteries, make you sick, give you all sorts of horrific problems. So this, I really am an advocate for, and I know it doesn't suit everyone, but I personally myself am a big advocate of animal products. And I'm not just saying you should just go out and eat steak every day. If you just eat the flesh all the time and nothing else, you get way too much of something called methionine, which basically inhibits glutathione production. And glutathione is an antioxidant, so it repairs oxidative damage. It's pretty much the best antioxidant, but the best one of all is actually melatonin, which your brain releases at night when you sleep. But if you haven't got good minerals in your body, you're probably not going to have very good melatonin production, and then you won't make a good, a cleansing effect. And something else that happens, I only found out about this recently. You've all heard of your lymphatic system. Has anyone heard of glymphatics? Your brain wash. Your brain does cleanse at night, does a glymphatic wash. But of course, if you're not getting a good sleep, your brain's not getting this glymphatic cleanse, and that's why you feel a bit funky.
Do you remember that experiment they did, and they sent them to the island, and the guys went rogue, and they just killed all the animals and just ate meat?
Which was that there?
But that was years ago, and it was on something. They sent them to the island, a big communal, experiment, and all the guys just decided to kill all of the animals. I think it was goat or sheep or something they had there. And they killed them. They ate nothing but meat, and
Yeah.
then they all got sick because it was way too much meat, and they had nothing else. They didn't sort of go and forage and add anything else.
Yeah.
Just meat,
Yeah.
nothing else.
So
Well,
I
the
wonder if
same
they,
meat.
I wonder if they didn't take out the bone marrow, or they didn't eat the eyes, they didn't eat the brain, they
No,
didn't eat
they
the
didn't.
nose, they didn't eat none of that.
No.
See, this is what I've said. You can't just consume the flesh. It's the old saying, you have to eat nose to tail.
All of it.
All
or
of it.
nothing.
Bone broth. Bone broth is amazing. If you've got any gut problems, bone broth is the healer. Bone broth for your stomach is incredible. So just go down your local butchers and hopefully get organic, decent as you can. Just buy some chicken. We can buy chicken carcasses at our local butcher for £1.50 a pot. And just get 3 of them, stick it in a pot, boil it up. You get loads of meat off of it, and then you get the broth at the end. It is so good for you. Really good for you. Loads of collagen in it. Your bones are mostly made of collagen. And the bone broth will heal you. It's so good.
What about dairy? Because I think that's a bit more controversial.
It just depends whether you can actually, deal with it or not.
'Cause,
Some people
yeah,
just
okay.
are lactose intolerant. I mean, butter doesn't have so much lactose in it. Milk's generally the problem. But it's just whether it agrees with you or not.
Because it's designed for sort of babies, like the young, and we give ourselves as adults a lot of it, and maybe this is an issue.
Yeah, well, we've got like a gene that persists in our Westerners because we've